Welcome to another VC Wisdom Pod. We have Jason Sherman with us. Jason is the co-founder and managing partner at Top Shelf Ventures, a board member at a bunch of companies, including Cantrip, Drink Grog, Grog that is. I spent too much time in AI. Grazie, Misguided Spirits. He studied at Harvard Law School. Interesting guy altogether. So yeah, I spoke with Emiliano, which you spoke with prior to this interview, and I was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun. So Jason, welcome to the pod. Tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Charles. It's an interesting one for sure. Give a little background. I'm a lawyer by training, Harvard Law. I got into the alcohol industry about 13, 14 years ago when AB InBev acquired SABMiller. The two biggest beer companies came together to form a big beer company, about 40% of the world's beer. And I was poached over to help them build what became the largest global venture capital innovation acquisition arm of an alcohol company in history. And we did about a billion deals in 3 years, about 200 different deals across e-commerce platforms around the world, craft beer around the world, all kinds of crazy adjacent beverages from hard kombuchas, canned wines, spiked seltzers, well before people really had these categories on their radars. And then a lot of frontier tech. So, we were the first big partners with Drizzly, kind of got them off the map when they were, still very, very small. And I left to then start an e-commerce platform for the beer industry that was part beer distributor in New York, like literally packing boxes and kegs and putting them on shelves and draft lines, and then pick pack 3PL for beer brands, and then also an e-commerce platform that allowed brands to launch from their own website, which before Taproom, the company I launched, started, didn't exist. And we blew up during COVID. We were the 108th fastest growing company in the Inc. 5000 list 2 years in a row. And then we sold the business back in 2023. And I launched this fund, Top Shelf Ventures, with Noah Friedman, with the basics of let's find some awesome brands out there by scouring the entire universe of alcohol brands, about 1,000 a year, and finding the ones with the absolute best. We call it rate of sale, but really is how much are you selling per store per month? And if it's very high, we'll probably invest. Yeah, that's the basics of it. And it's gone very well. We're now on our second fund and in deploying capital, trying to do about 7 or 8 deals a year right now.
And why decide to niche down in the vice industry? It's interesting, that word, right? Like vice industry. Like when you meet a stranger, do you tell them that you work in the vice industry?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I do very much so.
But
You know,
people is like, oh, you do porn and casino stuff or what?
we have our limits. We are really, really focused on CPG categories or technology that support CPG categories that give people an experience, some sort of escapism. We believe that people want to come together. They need to socialize, especially in today's world where, yeah, I'd say
But that's not a
much.
vice. That's actually good. That's community.
It's and alcohol over over a few thousand years in particular has been the primary driver of community and socialization. It brings down barriers. People get together, they say things, they talk about what they're really feeling. I think a lot of people today in the no drinking community say the biggest issue they encounter is when they go out with friends who are drinking. Those friends feel uncomfortable. They feel like their guard is down, but the sober friends guard is not down. And so, we really believe if it's not alcohol, we've invested in nicotine pouch companies that give people a slightly different high, a slightly different escapism. We've invested in THC beverages that have recently exploded on shelves of the alcohol industry, liquor stores in the alcohol industry, similar escapism. So, we are certainly open to different versions, but we believe people need to come together more. And as the world kind of evolves, a big part of the vice industry, well, not the porn and gambling industry, which we will stay away from, we always have. And certainly on the other side of the vice categories, we believe it's a net positive for society.
Yeah, because even a biohacker like me, I'm in the capital of mezcal, right? I would have a little mezcal here and there because it's so delicious and it has all these flavors. It's also almost spiritual to kind of experience. with or without friends, like just watching a sunset and sipping the good coyote mezcal is just epicness. I wouldn't consider alcohol a vice necessarily, but yeah, when I think when I was like probably from 15 to 19, I went pretty hard on the alcohol side of things. It runs in my family as well, and I think then it can become a vice. But even when I look back to these moments, like you said, it's the socialization part. Like, was a teenager, was a kid, and I didn't had anything better to do than to drink and see friends, and yeah, pour my heart out, I guess, because I didn't had any other outlet in my life. I didn't know entrepreneurship. I was into sport, but I think it's a rite of passage almost, right? It's and alcohol, it can be challenging as well, even if that means drinking competition. But yeah, nicotine. I'm a biohacker. I use nicotine. I don't. I definitely think it's not a vice. It helps with focus and concentration, right? And that's money for me. THC. If I want to go in deep meditation, I'm definitely gonna use THC. And again, that's recovery, right? It's not vice. It's just interesting, the connotation, right? I'm all about etymology and studying words, and yeah, vice in the suits. It's the first time I hear it. Why will
Yeah,
you?
we
Why
might be
will you not go
describing
to?
vice categories slightly different in what vice means, but yeah, I mean, you're saying it exactly right. I mean, and that's how we see those categories as ways to enhance different experiences that you may otherwise want to be having, and we think that's important for the human body.
Will you also go with beverage SaaS? For example, I have this client, FB Insight, and they're in that category. I think that that'd be a great investment for you. Will you also go in that category, or do you fully stay in actual physical products?
No, but we have in fund two, our second fund. Our first fund was purely brand products and physical products. But in our second fund, we're exploring all sorts of interesting technology and SaaS plays and AI plays that and data plays that are revolutionizing the alcohol industry now. The alcohol industry in particular is probably like 15 years behind almost every other category. And I mean, 50% of money moves through physical checks or cash still. So it's a very old school industry, and there's a lot of low hanging fruit. We just invested in a business that takes pictures or sends gig workers in to take pictures on shelves, and then has an AI layer that captures data and helps brands see in real time what's going on shelves. Because I kid you not, before this company, the only way that an alcohol brand would know what was going on the liquor store shelf was they'd have to send somebody in, and then they would call their boss and say, "Hey, it's in stock. It looks good on the shelf." That was literally the only way to do this. And we're also looking at companies that are compiling all the data from the point of sale systems and sell it back, because the only way the data gets there now is Nielsen and IRI capture scan data at the register. That's the only information that's out there. So there's a lot of low hanging fruit for innovation in the alcohol industry on the tech side.
And I should maybe have started with that, but Taproom itself, before you were VC, right? What was your experience? You started this one in 2018. Was it a struggle? Was it a victory? Tell me about that story.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting concept at the time. I mean, it was a bit of a regulatory play, that a little bit of an arbitrage play that the alcohol industry makes it very, very difficult to sell direct to consumer in any way. The rules, they call them the three-tier rules in the US, require the supplier, so the brewery, to sell it to a middleman distributor to sell it to the liquor store, who then sells it to you. So if you wanted to launch a website and sell, Charles beer online to yourself, you would have to actually sell to all those people first. And then the liquor store would sell it to the person online, which you can imagine makes the product very expensive. You have no control over it. By the time it gets to the retailer, sometimes months have gone by. You don't know if it's in stock. You can't really run D2C targeted ads because you don't know who the consumer is necessarily. And so what Taproom solved was by layering in all the licensing necessary to reach people at home, you could cut all the middlemen out, send us your product, build your website with us, and we would ship your product to people at home, and you could run traditional D2C e-commerce through us. And then additionally, you could also sell to bars, restaurants, and supermarkets in any state we were licensed in. So it was sort of a one-stop place to sell your product. So it was a very unique, very innovative model at the time, the first ever to do it. And as you can imagine, when COVID happened, we were the only place you could buy beer online at scale like that. And not only that, every beer brand, and this is the heyday of craft beer in particular, wanted to sign up because we could reach their customers at home when the bars had stopped selling, the restaurants had stopped selling, when the breweries could no longer have people inside. So we were the place where people came to sign up. And so we exploded out of COVID. We're absolutely explosive growth. So very successful there. Honestly, what happened though is out of COVID, the craft beer industry has taken a huge hit. There were about 900 bankruptcies last year. The market is turning hard on craft beer. A lot of this is the healthier for you movement, the biohacking movement. People realize the 450 calorie, heavy New England IPAs were not that good for you. It was an experience people were moving away from. And on the same time, e-commerce for alcohol kind of fell off a cliff as well. In the heyday of COVID, it was about 5% of all alcohol was sold online. Today, it's about 3.5%, and continues the downtrend, which is way off from almost all. Even in the UK, the 15% of alcohol is sold online, so almost 5 times as much. And so here in the US, because of all those barriers, because of the way consumers consume here, it's a much more in-store purchase, it's much more on-premise and experience purchase, and very little people ordering ahead of time for alcohol. So Taproom kind of took a hard turn, but we found a great acquirer, even though we were kind of trending downwards. And to this day, the business continues to thrive with them. And I guess we'll see. We'd love a big exit from our acquirer at some point for all the shareholders, but otherwise it was an interesting experience. It gave me a lot of insight into operators in the alcohol industry, from the brands themselves to running the business, to raising capital, to building technology, to operating a distributor. I saw all sides of this industry from the ground up. And while I was at AB InBev, I was the big behemoth, the big beer company, investing in these smaller companies. You sometimes miss the nuances of what they're dealing with on the ground. So having seen how startups interact within the industry at all levels, it brings a lot of knowledge that I can provide back to brands that we invest into. And it also helps us pick great companies because we've seen almost everything.
Right. It's intriguing, to study that industry. I can think of the Nelk Boys, right? Like their seltzer, and like Theo Vaughn, that keeps promoting some of these brands. I think there's Caleb Presley that was promoting like Mamita and all these brands. Is that like the best play nowadays? If I start my own brand, is just get that much exposure from these podcasters, for example? And what if I'm a podcaster that starts my own brand? Is that the best play? Because my first business was a hard product, was a nootropic, right? So for the mind, the memory, concentration, alertness, and all of that. But it was so hard to be profitable, right? Such thin margins. And beer is equal to heavy, right, when it comes to shipping. So that rings like nightmare to my ears. But if I'd have to do it again, would that be the best model?
Yeah, I mean, there was a heyday of celebrity-backed alcohol brands over the last 6 years. That ended a couple of years ago. At one moment, we ran a study, 70 different celebrity-backed tequilas were launched in a 3-year period. 65 of those either don't exist
There
or
was
barely
Elon
exist.
as well, the Elon one.
That's right. There's a ton of these. And they all raised a lot of capital during a low interest environment where money was flowing to all different kinds of startups, including celebrity backed CPG. And again, 65 of them barely existed or gone under or gone in the industry. They all saw their great examples. You saw the Casamigos, you saw Terramana, you saw Aviation Gin sell for billions plus, doing extremely well with big celebrities tied to them, and everyone wanted to jump in. But the truth is what we will do celebrity backed products, but we will never do them pre-revenue. We'll never do them before they get out of the gate, because another study was run that 85% of alcohol consumers that buy celebrity backed beverages don't know the celebrity tied to it. So the vast majority of people buying Casamigos have no idea George Clooney is involved. No idea. And the reason it's great to have a celebrity tied to your product, and I think sometimes it can accelerate your product to the moon. Like High Noon is the great example. When they brought on Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports, on a yearly deal, big deal, to promote the product. It went from sort of a middling vodka based seltzer product to one of the fastest growing alcohol businesses of all time, and now is the category leader by far. And it can't work. We always say bring them on later. Find the product, make sure you find product market fit for your brand, for your liquid, that it's working and working in a reasonable way, and then bring on the celebrity to accelerate your growth. Don't do it the other way around, because by and large, the celebrities they're not going to be able to pick a winner. And as soon as it's not working out of the gate, almost all celebrities lose interest. 24 months in, if your product's not doing great with that celebrity, the celebrity's probably going to walk away and go focus on more lucrative projects. And you're going to be stuck with a celebrity founder who's not promoting the product. You've already raised at high valuations. You have high expectations. You don't have a lot of room to pivot. And it by and large puts you in a really tough spot. So we are really, really big on bringing them on eventually. But as soon as you find some real scale, that's the best moment.
So let's skip from alcohol to nicotine. I believe you invested in Lucy, right?
That's right. We're big investors in Lucy. Very, very fond of the team. Yeah. Are you a user of Lucy or Zyn? What's your pouch?
I would if I would be in the US. I don't think they ship to Mexico. A bunch of things get stuck at the border in Mexico with the tariff wars and that bullshit. But yeah, I'm very bullshit on bullshit. I'm very bullish on John Coogan, which is the founder. He runs TBPN as well. I'm extremely bullish on TBPN. So what was your investment thesis with these guys? I mean, nicotine is light, right? And I don't think it costs tons to produce. And I think a bunch of biohackers will also use it, like not just recreational people. So what was your thesis behind that one?
Yeah, I mean, nicotine pouches are growing as a category in the US, 35, 40% a year right now. If you look at PMI's recent annual report, it's now producing Zyn, just Zyn alone, which is 70% of the market here. And Zyn alone is half of their operating profit. And this is a business that sells cigarettes for 100 years. So half their operating profit, which goes to show just the extraordinary margins built into the product. And it is nicotine, but it is cleaner for you. It's healthier for you. You're removing the tar and the tobacco from the product. It is about as healthy as you can possibly consume this product. We're not going to go as far to say that it's good for you. Absolutely not. But there have been reports, and there are doing research now that maybe it is, and it's very possible that it's good for you. That being said, the stickiness of this product is incredible. Of users, it's 60% of them use it every day. So if you use, you're very likely to use it daily. And once you find a brand and a product that fits your body and fits what you like to consume, you stay with that same brand. It's a very brand loyal community. And so when you start to build in all these factors, and you're seeing people who've tried Zyn that are finding other products that they would like, we've done some Lucy studies. Lucy is the largest now independent. There are a lot of these big, British American Tobacco, PMI, Philip Morris, Altria. You have all these groups that have built their own, big brands. Lucy is the only independent growing like crazy and absolutely exploding. And big reason for that is conversion of existing Zyn users, on users, rogue users. They come over to Lucy, and it's like 50%, 60% of the time they'll go to Lucy forever. They're done with Zyn, they're going to Lucy. It does taste better. It's a little moister, it's a little wetter, it's smoother on your stomach. The high is a little bit quicker acting, and it stays with you in a less intense way. So people consume them all day. So we think nicotine pouches are the next big growth category. I think that's probably out there already. But we still think there's probably 10x growth in the category itself. So, very, very bullish on nicotine pouches.
What about THC? It's so competitive. What have you invested in so far? What have you seen, for example, in Canada, right? Like my native Canada, we've legalized, I think, 5 years ago, something like that. Or are you also seeing something in many markets other than the US, for example?
Yeah, so we stayed away. I actually at AB InBev, I helped run the team that actually changed the charter of AB InBev to allow us to make a sizable investment into Privateer, which was Tilray, the Canadian company's US licensing arm for traditional cannabis or regulated cannabis. And by and large, that was the peak of the cannabis industry. I think since that time, no one's been able to figure out how to make any money in traditional cannabis at all across the entire value chain. The taxes are too high. The consumers are not willing to spend much. There's incredible competition at the supplier level, incredible competition at the dispensary level, and it just didn't grow. The market for it didn't grow until there was this mass movement about 2 years ago of utilizing a loophole in a 2018 farm bill that allowed any company to extract the THC from hemp, which is just very, very low dose THC cannabis. So 0.3% instead of like 30, 40% THC in the same plant. If you just extract that 0.3%, concentrate it together and put it in a beverage or a gummy or sometimes even joints, they're making all sorts of versions of this. It's actually fully legal. It's a legal product that you can sell anywhere, ship online, just like you would a Diet Coke or an orange juice. And what that led to was an absolute explosion of these products on liquor store shelves, primarily. And we caught this about 2 years ago, about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. We started getting calls from our partners, our advisors or groups in our network saying, hey, this is now 15, 20% of our sales in Minnesota, in Connecticut. These liquor stores were selling more of this in any other category. And Total Wine recently launched across their entire network the THC, hemp-derived THC beverages. It's now roughly 15% of their entire portfolio, and they think it could be 30, 40%. That product did about $1 billion last year. There's a good chance it gets to 20, 30 billion if left unleashed. But with the continuing resolution in October last year from Congress, they closed the loophole. And so there's a timeline. In November, all these hemp-derived beverages will fail. But our thesis is, the existence of these THC beverages, these 5, 10 milligram beverages on liquor store shelves shows an explosion of it, shows that there's incredible consumer demand for THC. Incredible. People really want it, but the existing regulated dispensaries were not the right forum. People felt uncomfortable going into them. They weren't selling the products they wanted to consume. It wasn't as easy or simple as going into a supermarket or a bodega or a liquor store and just grabbing your products. If the THC industry is allowed to sell on shelves like any other alcohol product and regulated it like that, then we know this could be a massive category, in tens of billions of dollars. And so that demand is there. We know it's there, and we know it can be done safely because the last 2 years, there are effectively no issues with that product being consumed. We probably can't sell 200 milligram cans. I think that's insane. I think if we keep the limit to 5 to 10, the risk is low that anything's going to go wrong. Anyone's going to overconsume or pass out, but we need regulatory change. That is the big hurdle right now in the whole industry. The distribution level, the retail level are pushing very, very hard for regulatory change so that these products can be sold like alcohol. And I think that's going to be the big 0-1 sort of moment is it will happen. So we invested in 2, Cantrip and Flower Boy, who are both doing very well on shelves and continue to, even despite the clock running. But I think, this next 6 months will be very telling for that whole side of the industry.
Interesting. Well, Jason, thanks for coming on. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, topshelfventures.com. Please look me up on LinkedIn, Jason Sherman, Top Ventures. Shoot me a note. And if you're interested in investment from us, across any of the vice categories, we have a form on our website, high velocity, high rate of sale, wanting to make money, real money at some point. And, we are certainly interested in taking a call. So, please reach out.
That was Jason and Charles for another VC